I don't know if you're into conventional reading of hieroglyphs.
Right.
You have all these things like denominators and signifiers, and if it's there it means this, and if it's there it means that, and if this one's next to that one. Like you'll have a bird, you know, you'll have 20 pages in Budge's dictionary of possible meanings of it.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. It's a bird, adder, you know, it's a derin, it's bird.
So people are trying to almost make it fit, because they don't know it. It's like, well,
yes.
If we do this and do that, if I go around that way, it's like, well, yeah, but
it's constantly trying to, I mean, an analogy I use is my old gran was failing a bit towards the end and she loved doing crosswords. And she would put in the ones she knew kind of thing, and then she'd just put her answers in, and sometimes she'd have to squeeze 2 letters into one square, and sometimes she'd switch a square, and if the one down and the one across didn't quite match, it didn't really matter.
Yeah, change it, it's fine.
It's fine, and you complete the crossword, it's like that.
Yeah.
You know, she's like, I've done it. You look at it, you think, that's ridiculous. But she's happy, everyone's happy.
Glasgow, Scotland. Series 3. Are you ready to walk?
Oh, aye. I'm ready.
Cut. Cut.
What is he doing?
In episode 1, I'll be walking from Glasgow, where I'll be learning about the history of Britain's third city, before making my way to the haunted 18th century Drovers Inn, with a very cold stop-off at Loch Lomond. I'm Gareth Icke, and in this series, we'll be walking across Scotland, talking to some very interesting people about the history that shaped these lands.
Waking up this morning, waking up before it's getting 9.
We're in the centre of Glasgow. This is Buchanan Street. It's one of the most famous streets in the city, but we're making our way out now to the leafy suburbs. I'm meeting a retired businessman, a guy called Samuroff. Now, he's lived in this city for over 80 years. Now, I want to find out from him just how much this city's changed and if those changes are actually for the better.
Just got a little bit south, just a little bit north of the Georgia line. I'll do it again. Little too much southern comfort, hanging with my friends, all playing games. We all started at a full house, ended up just me and good old James. I could've swore that I was winning, kinda had a feeling. Last thing I remember, I was drinking till the moonshine. Oh my. Turns out that I just got a little bit south, just a little bit north of the Georgia line.
Lawrence, thank you very much for welcoming us into your house, and thanks for the tea as well. As you come in, there's a lot of art on the wall. I didn't realise you were an artist as well.
Well, I took up art again after I retired from day-to-day business. I used to paint quite a bit when I was younger. I got my higher art at school. Latterly, in the last few years, I've been painting and drawing quite a bit. I really enjoy it.
It keeps you busy.
So good, a bit of therapy.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now you're retired, it's hard. I can go back to what I loved before.
That and gardening, and I spend most of my life scrubbing my fingernails because I like to feel the earth, you know.
Got you.
But anyway.
Yeah, it's beautiful out there actually, and it's a really nice day to go out and have a chat. If you don't mind, we can go and sit in the garden.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Have a chat. Great. Okay. Well, I'll let you lead the way then.
Okay. Okay, entree into the garden.
It's beautiful. Lawrence, what was it like growing up in Glasgow?
Well, for me, I wasn't in the heart of Glasgow because just after my parents got married, they moved away from the Gorbals, where my dad grew up. My mother was a Londoner, and she came up to Glasgow. They moved out to the south side of Glasgow, only maybe 2 or 3 miles from here, in a district called Netherlea. So that was quite, it wasn't in the heart of the city.
Right.
But having said that, that was the time before au pairs and babysitting. My parents brought up my mother's 3 spinster sisters from London to escape the bombing and the Blitz in London, and they settled in the Gorbals. The Gorbals was a city within a city. It was tenements closely packed together, but a real sense of community, and it was a real community togetherness. And I spent a lot of time in the Gorbals. I used to see the lamplighter come around at night and light the lamp in the close. It was just gas lamps. And I had a very interesting upbringing.
It sounds it.
An interesting place.
We started today down at the docks in Govan. And
yes.
Even though it's just a wasteland now, you could tell from seeing it that it was obviously something huge and significant in the history of the city. How much has the city changed then in that sense? Is it unrecognisable to you?
Well, parts of it are.
Right.
These places, another, talking about Govan and talking about Gorbals, not far from here is another area called Pollokshaws. And that itself, again, was the same thing. Tenements packed tightly, a little community, all shops and services, swimming baths, and The only recognisable place in that lovely district is the Pollockshaw's Borough Hall. That still remains.
Right.
But a lot of these places were just decimated. And then they built these housing estates in the periphery of the city, which were totally soulless.
Right.
Yeah.
So you became a businessman. So we spoke earlier, and you were talking. Obviously, you're into your art, and then that had to sort of take a backseat while you became a successful businessman. What was the business that you were in?
The business was manufacturing first aid dressings.
Right.
Like my father started in 1939. I think he wanted to try and get out of conscription to the war, so he was making sticking plasters. That was vital for the
soldiers. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, the major companies, they were commandeered by the government to supply medical supplies to the military, but there was nobody servicing the people that were staying here in Britain. So he, in the most primitive way, he manufactured plasters.
With all these changes you've seen in Glasgow, like I mentioned earlier, we were down by the docks, and there seems to be areas on the river that have been gentrified, areas that have just been left to waste away, basically. Yeah. Do you see the changes overall as being positive ones?
Well, some positive and some negative. I mean, talking about where you were this morning, Glasgow was the largest shipbuilding location practically in the world. I mean, the old Queen Elizabeth and the Queen Mary, they were built in Glasgow. It's a huge, thriving shipbuilding industry. And what is it now? Yeah. Just a couple of yards left. So changes happened there. And then the other big thing, there's another town which is again a suburb of Glasgow called Paisley. You probably have a Paisley pattern.
I've heard Paisley.
Well, Paisley was the cotton and textile hub of Scotland. It was like Manchester in England. So there's a cotton street there, a linen street, a gauze street, still exists in Paisley. And they had the largest sewing thread manufacturer in the world was there, Coates Payton.
Right.
And they've still got a beautiful, beautiful building that still lives still resides in the Waterhouse, at the waterside there. It's a lovely building, but they had some wonderful manufacturing industries in Glasgow and Glasgow suburbs, most of which have gone. So Glasgow largely became a service, more moved into service industries.
Right.
Sad.
I do hope, because Glasgow is a great city, I do hope that it kind of reinvents itself, as often these cities do, I suppose. They've reinvented themselves probably several times over the course of their history.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. I think there's certain things positive. I'm not getting into the politics of at all about people want independence, people don't. That's their choice. But whatever way we go, I think I'm fairly optimistic about the future. I won't be here to see most of it, but I think Glasgow will continue to flourish.
Oh yeah, rise like a phoenix from the flames, I'm sure. Thank you so much for talking to us, Lawrence,
it's a
and
pleasure.
having you in
Gareth.
your house. Thank you. I'll take that inside with me. So, Lawrence, this is you with Elvis.
Yeah, this is my little Elvis corner, because in 1969, by chance, my cousin on the left here from Chicago and I were in Paris. We were doing a little mini tour around Europe, and our parents told us that one thing you can't miss is a show at the Lido di Paris Club on the Champs-Élysées. So we went there that evening. We couldn't get seated until my cousin gave the guy a tip, a lot, and he took us halfway down the auditorium. Then another little tip, and we ended up on the very front table. Elvis came in for the second show and sat quietly at the back with a young lady who I assume turned out to be Priscilla, and another friend. And when the lights went up and the word got round, I mean, people started crowding around him, and he was very polite and very controlled. But we said, can we get a photograph taken? But this time all the photographers had gone. So he rushed out. He said, yes, I'll wait for you. But she waited a good 5 or 6 minutes or maybe more. just to get a photograph taken with us.
That's
which I thought was
lovely.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Because I imagine how many times he gets pestered to get photographs. We
Got that shot.
So how was that then, mate?
Yeah, it was great. Lawrence is just a lovely bloke, isn't he? I just found it like just dead nice just being in his house. I've not done it like that before, have we? Normally like meet at a location and stuff. It's just nice to have someone welcome you into their gaff and give you a cup of tea and tell you about their childhood. It's great.
It's lovely. Where are we going? Where are we heading now?
Up to Loch Lomond now, so we're heading, we're going to get out of the city, out of the smog, across the Erskine Bridge and up to Loch Lomond, and I think I'm going to get my feet wet. So I've made my way down the side of Loch Lomond. As you can see, we're heading to a place called the Firkin Point.
What's the fucking point?
It's where I'm going to go into the water. And I've kind of been looking a little bit at this sort of cold water therapy where apparently you jump in, you submerge yourself in freezing cold water and it's supposed to make you feel great, reinvigorate yourself. And
Well, like a fountain of youth.
that's the idea, I think. Whether it will be that or whether I'll just be freezing my knackers off for no reason is, we'll find out, won't we? This looks like the spot, I think. This will do. There's other people in there, so they're still alive.
How are your feet after walking all that day?
I've got... My feet are fine, mate.
Yeah?
Yeah. Now I need my shorts. I've got some shorts in here. So I'm gonna have to get down to my pants, which you're gonna be all over.
I absolutely have no comment on that, to be honest.
Here we go.
Ooh.
This
There
is
you
for
go.
the ladies. And the boys. I'm not gonna be excluding anyone.
Absolutely. How's it feel?
I've transitioned.
Feeling any younger?
No, just feeling colder.
So what's this? What's this?
What, the football award?
Yeah. What?
Kilburn FC under 13s 2021-2022 season.
Right, so, but what? You brought it to
I
Scotland?
brought it to do some to mantelpiece, the Drovers, which is where we're staying.
Mantle what?
Mantelpiece in.
Right.
Basically, I'm moving house, and so I had to skip out the back, and the lady from the football club asked if they could put some stuff in, which I was fine with. I went out to make sure it was flat, otherwise the skip company won't take it. I found a box of these. They're chucked, so I thought I'll have that. And what mantelpiecing is you plant it in a venue or a house or whatever, and then leave it, and hope they don't find out, and then you leave, and then at a later date, obviously they'll find it and go, what the living hell is that?
Right.
Which is funny, because normally you want to be there for the punchline and you want to get the laughter, but I don't want to be there, because then I'll go away and imagine the confusion on the face of the landlord.
Is this something that you've done often?
When we used to tour in a band, we used to do it all the time, but we used to do it with pictures of ourselves. So you'd frame a picture of yourself and then plant it in a venue. And sometimes you go back like 2 years later on the same circuit and you go, yeah, it's still the picture of us on the wall. Okay, right, should we stomp up to the Drovers then?
Yeah, go on then.
Yeah?
Yep.
So we're just arriving in Inveranen, which is actually just across the border into Stirling. We're going to the Drovers Inn, or the Drovers Inn, if that's how you pronounce it. Established in 1705, so it's dead old, and we've been told we've been given an extra special room. I don't know what to read into that really, but we're gonna go now and hopefully they'll get us a nice, well-earned pint.
Do you not like the room then?
Do you not see the sign on the door?
What do you mean?
Well, it's just scared in all over again, isn't it?
How do you feel now?
Yeah, it feels horrible, Rich. I told you before you did it, it felt horrible. Yeah, it feels, I feel like breathing-wise, just a bit tight-chested, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very nice. How about you? Do you feel good?
I feel fine.
Well, that's all right then. And that's fine for you. You think it's hilarious, but you know I hate it. Cheers for giving us 5 minutes, Mac. I've been watching you out in reception and you're literally like the busiest man I've ever seen.
That's a compliment, thank you very much.
Could you give us a little bit of background about the Drovers?
Yep, so the Drovers Inn is one of the most haunted hotels in Scotland and also oldest. So we've been a functioning inn since 1705.
Wow.
So well over 300 years. Never stopped running business. Yeah, so a lot of famous stories. Rob Roy, famous criminal in the Highlands. This used to be one of the spots he would come with his pals to. So he used to steal cattle from the hills. So when they were in their downtime, they'd come and have a few beers or whiskies in here.
Right.
There you go. Also, room 6 upstairs, one of our letting rooms, is known as the haunted room. The story being the loch that turns into a river just behind us. A family in the mid-1800s, they were swimming. The girl unfortunately drowned, and she was actually brought up into room 6 and laid on the bed, and that's where she passed. So the story is her body haunts the room.
Wow, yeah. It's a totally different vibe here now though, because I'm hearing so many different accents when you walk around,
yeah.
and languages from all over the world.
Tourism is absolutely phenomenal and stems a lot from the West Highland Way. So we're just on the West Highland Way, which is a very famous walk, a 100-mile walk from Mulgai right the way through to Fort William. So we are one of the main stops on that. But in my 4-year time here, I have probably served people 60 different nationalities. Wow. Yeah, absolutely crazy.
How did the last couple of years, with everything that was going on with restrictions and stuff, how did that affect you here?
So we had 2 lockdowns, both 4 months at a time. The first one began on the 21st of March, I believe. That was 21st of March 2020. We reopened on the 9th of July. We had outdoor service until the 15th, and then we could have people back inside. And to be quite honest, it was strange not having all the tourism. It was mainly people from England, Scotland, Wales, obviously Britain, coming up to just do the staycations. But business was still quite good for us, actually. Right. We kind of missed the curve, I think, because you're out of kind of your central belt areas. people came here to escape almost, but
Of course.
we still had fabulous business, which is very fortunate, obviously.
Of course, yeah. So, I mean, I'm trying to think now. Do people don't walk 100 miles, do they?
Yes.
They do that over like a few days, maybe.
7 days normally, or some people, if they want to push it, will do 5 days.
That's incredible.
The army actually run it without stopping. And I believe the record is something like 16 hours for a 98 mile run.
I ain't doing anything like that. No chance. That's amazing. But,
Absolutely unbelievable.
But thank you so much for giving us your time, mate. And it's been wicked to be out here. Like visually, the place is stunning.
Thoroughly glad you enjoyed yourself.
Oh, thank you, mate.
No worries at
Appreciate
all.
it.
Thank you.
That's great, man. Thank you.
Lovely.
Anyway, it's lovely to see us all in Drovers Inn on the beautiful banks of Loch Lomond, and as such, we'll do a bit of that song. So.
On the bonny banks of Loch
Cheers.
So late at night, gone 12 o'clock. Booked the haunted room, obviously, to try and set Gaz up. Then we went downstairs. John and I put on some music, had a bit of a sing-song. Everybody loves a bit of a sing-song. The crew were down there, having a good time. And come back up here to the haunted room, trying to kind of wind Gaz up a bit, obviously. He doesn't really like the ghost stuff, but suddenly, he doesn't seem to be too fussed about spirits.
Next time on The Walk. I walk from the Cagu Sami Ling Monastery near Dumfries, where I'll be trying out some meditation, to the Annandale Distillery, where I'll be shown their rather original whiskey-making process. I'm here at Cagu Sami Ling Tibetan Centre being attacked by midgies. It's an amazing place. Visually, it's incredible, but it's the last thing you expect to see as you're walking through the Scottish countryside. I'm hoping that Annie Lambo is going to be able to explain to me about the history of the place, but also why they built it here. Thank you so much for welcoming us here. Whereabouts are we now? Where are we stood now?
We're in the main courtyard of the monastery building.
Okay.
So this is the main part, like the heart of Sami Ling.
I'm really conscious of not being too loud because I don't want to disturb the gentleman.
Oh, it's actually a statue. Oh yes, most people do think that he's actually meditating. Oh, I'm sure he is, but...
I was trying to be quiet.
Yes.
So we've reached Annandale Distillery. I'm tired, I'm covered in midgie bites, but thankfully the sun's come out because my trainers are soaking wet.
It has such an incredible look as well.
Can you swim in there?
Isn't it?
No, that would
looks like
kill
the head
you
of a Guinness.
actually.
Would it really?
It may.
Oh, right.
There's a lot of CO2 coming from this.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's like French kissing a dragon.
Wonderful.
Just putting fire down my throat.
Pop that on the bottle. Yeah.
I don't know why that popped into my head. I've never French kissed a dragon.
I have a few times in my life.
Should we go sing karaoke somewhere later?
I think we might have to. You can.
These are like the things you get at a psychologist, like, you know, he has them on his desk.
So what do you keep in here then?